My name is Bill Jones. I'm with recapturefederalism.com and operationofficialmisconduct.com. Today's topic is about again, in the series, it's number 6, it's on the party press, the Communist Party. It's an ongoing series from the guidelines on the organizational structure of the Communist parties, on the methods and content of their work from 1921. It's their blueprint, the Communist blueprint. And this one is, we always hear about the Main Street media, MSN. Well, it's not the Main Street media, or media. It's the communist, the Marxist media press. And you say, well, you listen to them and, oh man, they all sound the same, and they all are pro-democratic party, it seems. And they are. And this is where they get it from. They have this tendency that's leaning there, the political party supremacy. And they learned all these blueprints and techniques and strategies from the communist. Whether they're actually communist or not, well, it's up for debate. But just listen closely. You'll hear terms like in italics, the directives of the party, the central organ, the what do you find this other one here? The combat, if I can find it, proletarian combat organizations. That's what they do. They've got them working for the Marxists. Section 6 on the party press, which today can also be the party media. 36. The communist press must be developed and improved by the party with tireless energy. No newspaper may be recognized as a communist organ if it does not submit to the directives of the party. Analogously, this principle is to be applied to all literary products such as periodicals, books, pamphlets, etc., with due regard for their theoretical, propagandist, or other character. The party must be concerned with having good papers than with having many of them. Above all, every communist party must have a good, if possible, daily central organ. A communist newspaper must never become a capitalist enterprise like the bourgeois press and often even the so-called socialist papers. Our paper must keep itself independent from the capitalist credit institutional, skillful solicitation of advertising, which in case of legal mass parties can greatly help in keeping our press afloat, must never lead, for example, to our becoming dependent in any way on the major advertisers. Rather, the press of our mass parties will most quickly win unconditional respect through its intransigent attitude on all proletarian social questions. Our paper should not pander to an appetite of sensationalism or serve as an entertainment for the public at large. It cannot yield to the criticism of petty bourgeois literati or journalistic virtuoso in order to make itself respectable. 38. The communist newspaper must above all look after the interest of the oppressed, struggling workers. It should be our best propagandist and agitator, the leading propagandist of the proletarian revolution. Our paper has the task of collecting valuable experiences from the entirety of the work of party members and then of presenting these to party comrades as a guide for continued review and improvement of communist methods of work. These experiences should be exchanged at joint meetings of editors from the entire country. Mutual discussion there will also yield the greatest possible uniformity of tone and thrust throughout the entire party press. In this way, the party press, including every individual newspaper, will be the best organizer of our revolutionary work. Without this unifying, purposive, organizational work of the communist press, particularly the main newspaper, will hardly be possible to achieve democratic centralism, to implement an effective division of labor in the Communist Party, or, consequently, to fulfill the party's historic mission. 39. The communist newspaper must strive to become a communist enterprise, i.e. a proletarian combat organization, a working collective of revolutionary workers, of all those who regularly write for paper, typeset, and print, manage, circulate, and sell it, those who collect local material for articles, discuss this material in the cells, and write it up, those who are active daily in the paper's distribution, etc. A number of practical measures are required to turn the paper into this kind of genuine combat organization and into a strong, vital working collective of communists. A communist develops the closest ties with his paper if he must work and make sacrifices for it. It is his daily weapon, which must constantly be tempered and sharpened anew in order to be usable. The communist newspaper can be maintained only by heavy, ongoing material and financial sacrifices. The means for its expansion and for internal improvements will constantly have to be supplied from the ranks of party members until, in legal mass parties, it is ultimately attained such wide circulation and organizational solidity that it itself begins to serve as material support for the communist movement. In the meantime, it is not enough for a communist to be an active salesman and agitator for the paper. He must be an equally useful contributor to it. Every socially and economically noteworthy incident from the plant fraction or cell, from a shop floor accident to a plant meeting, from the mistreatment of apprentices to the company financial report, is to be reported at once to the newspaper by the quickest route. The trade union fractions must communicate all important resolutions and measures from the membership meetings and executive bodies of their unions, and they must report on any characteristic activity of our opponents succinctly and accurately. What one sees of life in public, at meetings, and in the streets often provides an alert party worker the opportunity to observe details with a sense of social criticism, which can be used in the paper to make clear even to the indifferent or intimate knowledge of the problems of everyday life. The editorial staff must treat this information, coming as it does from the life of the working class and the workers' organizations, with great warmth and affection. The editors should either use such material as short news items to give our paper the character of a vital working collective acquainted with real life, or they should use this material to make teachings of communism comprehensible by means of these practical examples from the workers' daily existence, which is the quickest way to make the great ideas of communism immediate and vivid to the broad working masses. If at all possible, the editorial staff should hold office hours at a convenient time of day for any worker who visits our newspaper, to listen to his requests and his complaints about life's troubles. Diligently note them down and use them to enliven the paper. Obviously, under capitalistic conditions, none of our newspapers can become a perfect communist working collective. However, even under very difficult conditions, it is possible to successfully organize a revolutionary workers' newspaper along these lines. That is proved by the example of our Russian comrades. Pravda in 1912-1913 did in fact constitute an ongoing and active organization of conscious revolutionary workers in the most important centers of the Russian Empire. These comrades collectively edited, published, and distributed the newspaper, most of them, of course, doing this in addition to working for a living, and they scrimped to pay for its expenses from their wages. The newspaper, in turn, was able to give them the best of what they wanted, what they needed at the time in the movement, and what is still used today in their work and struggle. For the party ranks, as well as many other revolutionary workers, such a newspaper was really able to become our newspaper. 40. The militant communist press is in its true element when it directly participates in campaigns led by the party. If the party's work during a period of time is concentrated on a particular campaign, the party paper must place all of its space, not just the political lead articles, at the service of this campaign. The editorial department must draw on material from all areas to nourish this campaign and must saturate the whole paper with its suitable form and style. 41. Sales of subscriptions to our newspaper must be systemized on an informal basis. First, use must be made of every situation in which there is increased motion among the workers and where political or social life is further inflamed by any sort of political and economic events. Thus, immediately after every major strike or lockout where the paper has openly and energetically represented the interest of struggling workers, a subscription drive should be organized to approach each individual who has been out on strike. The communist plant and trade union fractions within the trades involved in the strike movement must not only propagandize for the newspaper with list and subscription blanks in their own areas, or own arenas, but if they possibly can, they must also obtain lists of addresses of workers who took part in the struggle, so that the special working groups for the press can conduct energetic door-to-door agitation. Likewise, after every political editorial campaign which arouses the workers' interest, systematic door-to-door canvassing must be carried out in the proletarian districts by the designated working groups. At times of latent political or economic crises, whose effects are felt by broader working masses as inflation, unemployment, and other hardships, after making skillful propagandist use of these developments, every effort should be made to obtain, as much as possible through the trade union fractions, extensive list of unionized workers in the various trades so that the working group for the press can productively follow up with sustained, systematic door-to-door agitation. Experience has shown that the last week of each month is the best suited for this regular canvassing. Any local organization that allows the last week of even 1 month to pass without using it for agitation for the press is guilty of serious omission of extending the communist movement. The working group for the press must also let any public meeting of workers or other major demonstrations go by without being there pushing our paper with subscription blanks at the meeting. During the breaks and at the end, the same duties are incumbent both on the trade union fractions at every single meeting of their union and on the cells and plant fractions at plant meetings. Our newspaper must be continually defended by party members against all enemies. All party members must lead a fierce struggle against the capitalist press. Its venality, its lies, its wretched silence, and all its intrigues must be clearly exposed and unmistakably branded. The social democratic and independent socialist press must be defeated through a continuous offensive without getting lost in petty factional polemics. We must expose through numerous examples from daily life their treacherous attitude of concealing class antagonisms. The trade union and other fractions must strive through organizational measures to free the members of trade unions and other worker organizations from the confusion and paralyzing influence of these social democratic papers, both in door-to-door agitation and particularly in the plants. Subscription work for our paper must be skillfully and deliberately aimed directly against the press of the social traders.